Now it's time to get started with renewables. Remember that renewables in this specific case is going to be mostly towards wind, solar, biomass, and other, but mostly wind and solar. So let's get started with the general values. We got these tables right here, and I really wanted to have the share of global primary energy so you get a better understanding. We're talking about this line right here, which is purple, renewables. As you can see, it has been increasing very drastically from 2000. So this is the last 22 years and so. And currently we are in something around 7%. When back in the day, maybe 2000, 2010, it was not more than 2-3%. So definitely something quite interesting or worth checking out, that renewables are growing at an accelerated pace. Not the same for nuclear energy and hydro, which are the traditional energies that are not fossil fuel in respect to the global share. So what I want to do here is, of course, analyze all the data right here, the relevant players. But more importantly, I want to see the distribution, which is going to be seen later on. This is generation by source, consumption per source, and solar energy, most likely installed power. Remember that this will be pretty similar to the refinery capacities. Then we have wind installed capacities, and of course, finally, biofuel consumption. Identify which type of countries are betting towards the production and consumption. As stated before, most renewables will be kept in-house, are not likely to be exported or so. Actually, let me tell you about wind energy. Most of the wind power infrastructure is likely to end up as electricity directly to the electric grid of the local cities and towns. The same is true for solar. Solar energy or solar power is mostly produced in photovoltaic cells, and those end up converting the sunlight into electric energy, which ends up in the electric grid and distributes typically locally. So let's get started with renewable power generation. Now, generation is mostly production. You see different sayings, generation, production, and so on. It's mostly production. Now, here we are going to be the exajoule equivalent because we're going to be comparing between solar, wind, and biomass. Hence, we're going to be using exajoules, okay? So now let's identify the big players. Now, as you can see, most of the countries have a share below 2%. So I'm going to be including maybe 3% and upwards. So definitely the US, with 16%, definitely Brazil. Then we keep going. We have Germany for sure. Then we got 2.4. That's Spain. Well, let's include Spain and the UK, 3.2%. And well, as you can see, Russia is not a big player with respect to these type of energies. And one interesting fact to see here is China being a big player, as well as India with almost a 5%. Also, we could include Japan with a 3.7%. And yeah, that will be it. So the big players, let's get the list going on, will be China, then the US, then Germany. Then we could say that it could be India. So that's great news because these are the two mega powers that are growing. So nice to see that they are investing in their renewable energies. Then we have the UK. Then we could say that, okay, Germany, we have India, we have Japan, then we could say Japan, and Spain could be considered. Spain is mostly solar and wind energy, which is of course great. Now, this was regarding power generation, and as stated before, we are going to be analyzing by source, not only like renewables, and let's pay our attention towards wind energy. And probably you can guess which countries have the most areas in which their windmills could be installed. That will be the best guess. They require, of course, to have a very big space. They require to have very fast and rapid wind overall. So let's see and analyze how the general growth has been going on. And unfortunately, this is only 2022 growth rate. It will be great to see this in a 10-year gap. So these numbers are not quite reliable. So actually, I just want to remark the newest or the biggest ones, maybe China, the big players, maybe the US. We can see maybe Brazil here. Although Colombia, Ecuador growing big, we could be including Croatia. This 45% looks definitely interesting. Comes from Finland. Then we have this 17%, Netherlands. We have 20% here in Sweden. We have 24% in the UK. And very interestingly to see, the CIS countries also have a high value. So they have Kazakhstan, Russia investing high. But these are just last year trends, so that's why I don't want to pay extra attention. And actually what I want to do the most is to cover consumption, which is very similar to that of production. And in this specific case, we just want to compare if the production and consumption are quite similar. And yes, as you can see, we have the big player USA. Once again, I'm going to be covering the countries with at least 3% and upwards. So we're talking about Brazil, then we have Germany, then we have Spain once again, and UK. We got China, we got India, and we got Japan. So once again, these are pretty similar numbers, so you can go straightforward, assume that general production equals consumption, okay?